from a short agenda perspective, we have the NIS2 Directive, which I try to explain what it is about. Then we are saying protection is sometimes better than with disruptions, and explaining this from a DDoS solution perspective. And then for sure, which is quite relevant in the NIS2 topic, is cyber intelligence and how to deal with threat intelligence, how to deal with threats, and how to respond on them. And then we have some recommended links. First of all, let's start. What is the NIS2 Directive? It's coming from the European Agency of Cybersecurity, and it's not a new one. We have in 2016, it starts with NIS1, which was for critical infrastructure organizations and put some standards for cybersecurity. And now we have a refresh, which was announced in 2022, and it's valid and for everyone valid in the EU from 18th of October in 2024, I mean this year. So there's half a year left for those of you who are still in the middle of this process or didn't start already this process. So again, it's an initiative by ENISA, means it's really European driven, and it covers 27 EU countries. And it applies, and that's really the different term before, it applies to any critical sector organizations. And the number of critical sectors have been increased since the last years, which I will point out on the next slides. But what's really strange is that we have medium-sized companies from starting with 50 employees and 10 to 50 million turnover. And this means medium-sized companies who could have a nice life from the organization in the previous years are now affected by this regulation. And this means these guys have now liabilities, these guys have now responsibilities and have to do things which they maybe didn't have done before. And for sure, it's for large companies, 250 plus employees and more than 50 million turnover in the balance. So it's really affecting a lot of more organizations and companies. The date, which I mentioned before, is the compliance date when it should start is October 18th this year. So really half a year left to get things done and to be prepared for the ENISA regulations. And who is affected? And it's affected to any of these organizations doing business in the EU within these 27 countries. The only exception we have is UK, because UK, since Brexit, is no longer in the EU, so therefore UK is outside. But we have similar regulations, but this is not relevant for you. Okay. I mentioned that we have now more sectors affected, and we have now two defined sectors. It's named essentials and important, means especially critical and relevant critical or important critical. And then let's go take a further look on this. If we take a look to the former directives, so we see that this one was coming out in 2016, and we had a certain number of affected sectors. We had energy, transport, finance for sure, finance infrastructure, healthcare, water, digital infrastructure, and IT services. And if you take a look to the 2020 updated version, we have much more. So essentials means critical with more liabilities and responsibilities are the sectors energy, transport, finance, marketing, infrastructure, healthcare, water, new wastewater, digital infrastructure, IT services, public administration, and outer space, because we've had the VIA things, so we know that outer space is critical as well. And then we have the important ones, means postal and courier services, waste management, chemical products, food, and nearly every manufacturer who is doing production or productive of medical devices, machinery, etc., vehicles, everything, electrical, electronic equipment. So manufacturer is a huge market as well, who is now first time affected. We have digital sciences, and we have science as well. And this is quite important, because then it was explained already, so that you have now the dates on the screen, seeing all these things and the ENISA logo. So you have this scene, and then this was what I was explaining about the previous NIS1 regulations with the affected sectors, and then we have now the NIS2 regulations. And so I explained also in smaller letters that you see what it is about, and especially the manufacturer thing is one which is really hard to see and understand. Okay, so moving now to the critical points on this too, and we say ignorance is no protection from punishment. And yeah, that's a sad but true story. So we have obligations, and in the Article 23, they say that companies are obliged to report serious security incidents and to the competent national authorities, means your local authorities, and then incidents have to be a significant impact on the provision of the services and must be reported. And this means if in the event of a serious services disruption or financial loss for the facility concerned, then you have to do a report to your authorities. In the event of an impairment of natural or legal persons to significant material or immaterial damage, it's the same. You must provide a report to the authorities, and then there are three major topics. The early warning means once you have this disruption, this incident, then you need to report within 24 hours and saying we have an incident, which have really is a service disruption, whatever. You have to go on this in the 24 hours. A detailed notification means the real impact should be done within 3 days, 27 hours. And the final report, which also should include fixing this issue, have to be done latest after 1 month. And this is hard for many organizations to deal with. And I will explain why it's sometimes hard for organizations to deal with, because especially these detailed information about the disruption, about the incident, about the impact, to find out what it is about, doing some root cause analysis, etc., etc. These are things which are hard to do if you don't have the right tools to get this information. So this means you can't provide a detailed report to the authorities. And if you take a closer look, which is really hard for the smaller organizations, it's hard for everyone, means there are fines defined. And this means it could be hard. The maximum for important facility is 2% of the company's total global turnover. It's a huge, huge impact. 2% is a lot of money. And therefore, everyone should be avoiding to come in a situation where he is impacted on threat which is disrupting his business, his services, or sometimes in a chain. So it's really hard. And if you see these signs, then you see it's no fun. It's really critical for everyone who's dealing or who is in these sectors. Interesting thing is that especially the government organizations like parliaments, etc., central banks, which are central banks from government, are excluded from this scope of applications. So they do not have to pay penalties and fines. So this is a strange story that a 51 strong company, enterprise company, is responsible. They have to pay some fines, but a parliament or a central bank, which is much bigger and has much more money, is excluded. But it is what it is, and it's based on a common EU regulation, which I guess no one from enterprise business was asked to get it for his business. So that's not nice. And then if you take a closer look to the liabilities for the risk management, then we see that C-level management of organizations are liability for these. It means if a cyber attack, as an example, cyber attack has a business restricted effect to inadequate monitoring risk or management process, then these guys are liability and have to, with their own private money, as an example. And the liability of a managing director means maybe a head of IT security as an example, or the CISO of an organization, he is a liability as well. Even he is, yeah, a breach, etc. Managing is liable for any damages incurred. And this means no matter what happened, he is liability. Therefore, I guess no one wants to be a CISO in future, or less people want to be a CISO in future, because it's really hard. You are liability and you have to pay some fees or some fines if it comes to a really serious issue. And therefore, the idea, in my understanding, and I guess hopefully in your understanding as well, is first of all trying to avoid to get cyber threats. That is important as well. Second, you need tools which help to set the risk management. Means you should implement a SIEM, a SOC, an XOR, a SOL solution, which is able to do the monitoring of your infrastructure and your security, and monitor especially the alerts. And maybe that's not enough. Then you should take a closer look, and you should have tools which are helpful for you to get the back-in-time investigation, as an example, to find out when was the first impact and who was, when was the first time the hacker was entering my network, as an example. So we say protection is a major component of NIS2 regulation, and second, having strong visibility on any east, west, north, south data is helpful to get these things done. Okay. Talked about the easiest way. We said we have an Arbor as a name, it's our product, an Arbor-based multi-layer DDoS protection solution, which is critical and really serious against serious disruption. And we said efficient protection is always better than a service or infrastructure disruption. And so if you're a finance organization, as an example, and you're offering services to your customers which are public, or if you are maybe an airplane organization and you're offering flights to anyone. So if your service is not available and you have a service disruption, you are liability. And therefore we say DDoS is the thing which is disrupting most of public services. And then you should ask maybe some good questions. Questions could be, is my ISP reaction protection enough to protect me against today sophisticated attacks? And how long does it take to measure this defense, etc.? Does my provider recognize attacks with a low bandwidth and low volume, which was normally under the radar of a service provider? And does my defense options by an ISP, how does it deal with encrypted traffic? And I'm asking these questions because a lot of people say we have a DDoS protection to protect our services and infrastructure against disruption, and we have this, and we have it by an ISP. But the truth is that an ISP can't protect you against so many kind of DDoS attacks, so that you should be thinking about, is it enough what I'm having? Does it really provide me for serious disruption? And this is really that today's dynamic and sophisticated DDoS attacks, and by the way, most of them coming permanently from pro-Russian activities, hackers groups like Killnet, Anonymous Sudan, No-Name 5716, things like that. These guys are really well weaponized and running really high sophisticated DDoS attacks, and therefore a service disruption caused by DDoS is a serious thing which you should think about. And if you are a reseller or talk to your customers and explain that they should review their DDoS protection shield just to have a better protection against service disruptions. And again, service disruption is one of the pointed topics in Article 23 of this NIS2 thing, and therefore, please do a review on this. I get one slide, and this is enough from our side. So we have, I put it like this. We as Arbor, we are the pioneer since 24 years in DDoS protection, and we have a multi-layer solution which starts on the on-prem equipment, on the data center, and once it comes to high volumetric attacks, then we have a handover with a cloud signaling to an Arbor cloud, which is the largest dedicated DDoS protection cloud worldwide, with about 15 terabit of clean data. And some of the ISPs, hopefully most of them, it's about 90%, using our service provider grade protection, and therefore this multi-layered approach is the best way, in our understanding, to protect against these serious DDoS attacks, which you will find out on really day by day on a daily basis, and which you can read in the news, and hopefully you're not affected. One thing to the AED or Arbor Edge Defense, this is the full name of this machine. It's an inline device which is not a target by itself because it's layer 2. It means it doesn't have IP addresses inbound and also outbound. So this is really a packet-based solution which is taking care of every packet which will enter the entire network on-prem. And therefore, the best protection solution will be on-prem, and only if it comes to volumetric attacks, which will exceed the capability and the CPU utilization, etc., of an edge router, then it should come to cloud signaling and then hand over maybe to an AS BGP redirection to an Arbor cloud. But at the end of the day, it should be a holistic approach so that you are avoiding any kind of DDoS attacks to affect your network. That's what NETSCOUT Arbor is about. Okay, so I don't want to point out too much on protection solution. I guess it's a good topic for you to think about. Is my protection level good enough to protect me against today's attacks? And I guess it makes sense for everyone to take a closer look and to do a review. It's good enough as well. Coming to other threats, we see for sure the most serious threats which you will experience are ransomware. It's data theft, exfiltration of data. And this is hard to deal with, and it's a nightmare for everyone. It has the largest and biggest effects and impacts on the business. And therefore, you need things to get these things better controlled. Again, from a NIS2 perspective, you need some things like a CM or SOC, which is really crucial for this environment. And I expect that everyone will have at least some Splunk or open source things to do some CM solution and to have the idea and the capability to do some reports about threats. But at the end of the day, we said clearly network visibility and a multi-dimensional threat detection could be a great answer for this. And if you take a look at this SOC visibility triad for NIS2, we see on the one side SIEM, SOA, XDR solutions, which are really mandatory because these solutions are collecting every kind of alerts from security perspective and help a system administrator or system manager to find out what's going on. On the other side, we see the EDR, the endpoint detection solution, which is crucial for sure because your web services, as an example, your hosts are protected by EDR solutions. But nevertheless, attackers normally try to destroy logs, as an example, or to manipulate logs, to enable or to disable agents from an EDR solution. So therefore, the network detection response portion, NDR, is really, really relevant because NDR, network detection response, in regards of NIS2, is taking care of the complete east, west, and north, south. Every kind of lateral movement in this corridor is seen by NDR solution or should be seen by NDR solution. And this is really, really helpful because then you have the visibility on threats and on the evidence you could cause saying this hacker caused this impact, etc. And then you can take a closer look to this. We as NETSCOUT say you can't protect yourself from what you can't see. Means effective network detection requires a really comprehensive visibility across the complete entire network. And therefore, network is the corridor where every lateral movement, every data packet will pass the network. And then a close look on the network is mostly the best way to identify things, hackers. And for sure, which I mentioned before, an attacker can maybe manipulate an EDR agent, disable this one, or try to manipulate system logs, etc., etc. If you would be a hacker, I guess it would be the first thing you would try to do. And therefore, on a network corridor, every movement, a hacker can't avoid that a lateral movement is seen. So therefore, a network detection and response is really, again, is crucial and brings a unique synergy and significance for this SOC Okay. Again, north, south, east, west traffic, the multi-string, and we say it's a must-have and it's not an option. So, give you some examples. Most of people, if they are attacked, the most time they spend is to get the identification and the knowledge to understand the problem. So they see an impact, for sure, service is disrupted. Web service is no longer available, a firewall is overloaded and the network is unreachable, etc., etc. And then the root cause, the identification is the most hard topic. The fix and to verify the fix solution is a small portion as well. But most of it, it's really the mean time to knowledge and to repair. This is really hard for the most of the people, and really spend 90% of the time, and that's not really based on NETSCOUT experience, it's based, I guess, on everyone's experience. This is the thing which could be addressed and should be addressed in a NIS2 compliance topic. With NETSCOUT, we say we have a visibility platform which enables you to reduce this time for identification and knowledge on a really to speed this really up and get things much quicker. And the time data is mostly the most important thing to respond on hackers and to respond on incidents. The longer it takes to get it done, the longer it takes to get the knowledge about it, the harder it is for you to, first of all, to be compliant, and second, to get your network, your services cleaned up again and to find a solution to do so. So it's really root cause, which is major for these things. We have some examples. As example, we start at day 1 and end maybe at day 75. And you see on day 1, you see a breach, and then you say, okay, normally it's a compliance assurance to say we need to prevent things. But if an incident happened, then we start at day 1. And then normally the detection of a malware means detection is really, again, is crucial. You should have an advanced early warning and an attack surface which will help you to detect any kind of malware activity. And again, this is not every solution has the capability to manage these and to understand and have a great detection engine on site. So, and only detection is not enough. You need the alarming system, which means these affected things must be reported to a CM or SOC so that these things are done. And then maybe, and this is again really important, the forensic analysis means back in time investigation. When does it start? When was the first time the hacker seen in my network? And then whom did he talk to? Things like that. Contact tracing. Was it only a single affected system, or does this host establish some SSH-based connections to whatever, to some host somewhere else in my network? Does a switch maybe have some communication which are fully unusual because they are normally not talking to each other? And now we see by contact tracing that there are much more systems affected. Maybe there are some things affected which currently do not things on a bad manner, but maybe could do things in a bad manner tomorrow, because then they build up and establish a connection to a command and control server and then do some ransom, etc. So contact tracing, who was talking to whom, and taking time investigation to have a historic view on these topics is really important as well. So forensic, and these are things which most of the solutions we'll find out today are not able to. There are a lot of many NDR solutions in the market. I guess you know many of them have an excellent detection. And said, okay, we have some things. This host is affected, and it's a ransomware, or isn't this host going to be encrypted, etc. Or we have some data, we are losing data, things like that, data exfiltration. So you got an alarm. The detection works, but normally there's a time frame And this time frame is about the latest measures from across the was 57 days. A hacker or an exploit stays in your network before it was the first time that this exploit maybe was really executed. So how can you report in regard of NIS2 if you don't have tools which can take a historical view on this? You have it maybe detected, but it didn't have the idea when it started the first time, when it was the first time seen in my network, whom was it talking to, etc. So you need definitely this historical view. And with the knowledge that it took 57 days average to identify the first time an attacker in my network, in my services, you will see that the 1 month that you have to do a fully report to your authorities explaining who breached my network, whom he was talking to, what was the impact, etc., etc. You need this full report. And if you don't have a tool taking a closer look on this, you will not be able to do a proper report to authorities. And this could lead for a fine. This could lead that a head of security at CISO, this could lead that a C-level management of an organization needs to pay fines to authority. And again, that's not nice, that's not fun, and it's really hard for especially the mid-sized enterprise customers. So again, these things, back in time investigation and contact tracing, are really, really crucial and relevant for the analysis, the root cause analysis of threats. Expect from your EDR, expect from your NDR, expect from your firewalls, etc. Expect that these systems sending alerts once they are breached. But these systems are not able to say this exploit stays since 57 days in my network and had already established connections to other systems in my network, etc. So those blocks are really relevant for you as well. We, as NETSCOUT, say incident reporting requires back in time. And therefore, we say to store data, historical data in your network could be or is relevant. So this means we have the ability with our solution, which are packet-based, we could be placed in your critical infrastructure segments as an example. These systems are storing smart data, means prepared data, it's metadata, where we can take really historical views on this. And this historical views means we could sometimes, it depends on the size of the machines, but it's not a problem for us to take a closer look to 60 days back or 90 days back or even longer to get things from historical views and do the historical root cause analysis. And again, if you see the article 23, we have 72 hours to get saying who is impacted. And that's, again, it's critical if you have just an alert that things are failed, you need this view. And then the evidence report is within 1 month. So again, you need to have somewhere in your network or outside your network data which you can rely on, which you can do the root cause and seeing all the lateral movements in your environment to get these report compliant. And therefore, our approach is really saying we store smart data in your network and have the historical view on this, can do the back-in-time investigation. And again, these are the obligations coming from NIS2. I'm not sure if any authority, it depends. So it's a new one. I guess some authorities will need to learn about these reports, but on the other hand, it could be that they are really saying we need every detail in this report, and if you don't, so you have to pay a fine. So really, we have no experience with this. It starts on October, but it's, in our opinion, it's much better to be prepared on this rather than being affected. We as NETSCOUT offer a solution called Omnis Cyber Intelligence. Omnis Cyber Intelligence is a packet-based solution which is based on appliances, physical appliances, which is DPI-based from a technical point of view. and this is scalable for sure. You can add as many you want to, and it scales to any kind of network. And we're talking about 10 gig, 100 gig, whatever. It's not a problem for us to get these things placed in the environments, and it covers these 4 pillars. And we see 2 major things: detection on the other side, and on the other side we see the investigation. So on the detection side, we need an advanced early warning system. Means we detect the suspicious activity and do a report, maybe direct with an interaction to Splunk as an example. So you have interfaces, we have interfaces to Splunk, you have interfaces to Palo Alto XOR, things like that. So it could be really fully integrated, and then the SOC manager directly sees an early warning that maybe there's some breach in this network. Then we have a comprehensive visibility on the attack surface, and the attack surface for us means we are taking not only a look to the switches, router, whatever, we're taking especially a look in real time on the complete east, west, and north-south traffic. And again, hackers can't manipulate, can't destroy any kind of activity, any kind of lateral movement in your network, and therefore our approach is to have the best surface monitoring, and the attack surface for us is the network. And therefore, we have great visibility because we put our systems in this network and monitor any kind of activity. It's really like mirror data. We see really every data movement in your network, and therefore we have a covering everything. For sure, not the EDRs. We are not going to the host, but we see the complete network corridor. And if it comes really to a breach, then again, we have these 72 hours to saying what is the impact, and what does the impact means. Is it just one system? Are there many more systems being affected? And therefore you need this contact tracing capability, this function. And this means you need to be able to track all lateral movements, every movement, every connection established from a switch, a router to a host, from a firewall to whatever. You need every visibility and say who was talking to whom. And this is contact tracing. This is important for NIS2. And again, you need to do this back-in-time investigation to get a retrospective analysis of the incidents, because sometimes the incidents happened which you didn't have seen so far. And in this report, you need this as well. And for sure, if you do not have this root cause analysis, please allow me to ask this question: how can you establish a fix? As an example, how can you resolve this solution, this breach? So these information are both really, really relevant to get a resolution for this impact. These are the detection, but this part of investigation and to the resolve of these problems is crucial as well. And for sure, this is a clearly point which is stated in the NIS2 regulations. And at the end of the day, everything is about risk reduction, and this is what this NETSCOUT is about. Our approach is really to try to reduce risk and to protect as good as possible to get things, to avoid things. And if it really happened, then the network corridor to get this back in time. This is what we are doing from NETSCOUT. Here some links. This is a great link, by the way. I'm not sure if you have seen this before. If yes, then it's easy. In this link, you see on every language, means 27 languages, you see every kind of regulations affected for each country in the EU, and therefore it's defined as a HTML, as a PDF, whatever. You get all these things on this website, and for sure it's the official website of the European Union. And then from NETSCOUT perspective, we have this Omnis security solution, which is covering all kinds of solutions. And then we have the threat report. Oh, this is the wrong URL saved. No, that's not that's the right one. Then we have a threat report, which we are reporting twice a year. This is maybe helpful to think about, to do the review on your securities and again understanding how attackers are affecting your environments. We have a real-time monitor. It's especially for dealers, by the way. It's what you see in the background. It's a kind of real-time map where you see really every kind of attacks currently running worldwide. And you can filter for sure on your own country. You can filter on industries. That's what you can do. And then this one is great as well. It's a threat hunting blog where our DDoS experts, etc., our security experts are posting technical high-level blogs where you have really threat hunting information about malicious activities and find out what are these malicious activities about, etc. So it's from technical expert to technical expert. This is not for sales.